Papillon is definitely one of the most interesting characters, but there's one of the things I like about the writer of that series, Nobuhiro Watzuki, in that whenever he does make an anti-hero, they're anti-heroes in the truest sense, and that they're not just villains, they're not just guys who are good all along but misunderstood or any of that garbage. They're guys who are purely out for their own self-interest. It just so happens that they're on the side of good, basically. There's another example from the series he's more known for, Rurouni Kenshin, and the character Saito Hajime, who he would normally be my first option, except that he's kind of a policeman, and he is technically on the side of justice, in that he chooses the more violent option than our hero.
Oh, yeah. Good cop, bad cop.
Pretty much, yeah. In terms of actual villain to hero, I definitely say Papillon's my first choice in that case.
Yeah, I can see your reasons behind that, and I really have nothing to add, because like I said, I have not been privy to very many works of media in which villains actually do turn good, except for Fire Emblem, and they're usually mooks.
Pretty much, yeah. I'm trying to think of Bleach and Naruto, but those always turn out horrible, so let's not bother.
Oh, aren't you aware, in Bleach, there's no such thing as a heel face turn. We just murder all our villains before they can get any proper character development. Not that
No, you've got it all wrong. We murder them, let them monologue about their backstory, then we forget about them.
Yeah, and then conveniently brush over the fact that that was the only character development they ever got.
Oh dear. Yeah, moving away before we descended to get another Bleach rant. That concludes the Q&A session, and as I said before, if you'd like us to answer your questions, send them to us from the usual places. And now, it's time for us to move on to the next section, which is... Manga! This is the section where we review all the manga we've been reading recently, and relax people, I'm not talking about Naruto or Bleach.
And the audience breathes a collective sigh of relief.
But to be honest, I'm hitting kind of a low with Shonen manga recently, since all of the manga I'm currently keeping up with are hitting bad patches. Bleach is just getting worse and worse, with a chapter that was entirely consistent on backstory, which I can probably describe as one of the worst manga chapters I've ever read in my life, and Naruto pointed out even more BS's, including the fact that, shock horror, the masked guy is not Madara Uchiha.
I was afraid of that.
I guess we now call him not Madara or whatever, but... And on top of that, Fairy Tail, a series which I was hoping was actually good, decided to pull a ridiculous time skip out of nowhere, and reading some of the earlier volumes and seeing that some of the fights ended on big Deus Ex Machinas makes me start to think otherwise, so...
I swear, it's like a rule of serial mangas. Once you get past chapter 200, your series becomes a monstrosity.
Sorry, but yeah, in my despair, I decided to go and track down some of the manga. And like I said before, I'm a big fan of Buso Ranking and Rurouni Kenshin, both of which are written by Nobuhiro Watzuki, who is one of my favorite mangaka, or manga writer. Actually, one piece of trivia I should say right now. Hey, One Piece fans, you should probably give this guy a look, because, little known fact, Nobuhiro Watsuki was actually Oda's mentor.
Oh, he was the guy Oda was mentored for. I never remember who it was.
Yeah, he's the guy who basically mentored Oda and encouraged his style, and in fact, in Rurouni Kenshin, I believe the character of Kamatari was his idea, basically. Knowing that those two weren't his only works, I decided to track down his latest work, Embalming, Another Tale of Frankenstein. Only to be reminded that no Scanlation group has picked it up, and so there's no English version of it after chapter 11. Come on guys, someone translate it. It's not a bad series, I swear. Look, it's even getting an anime next year. For crying out loud, it has to be good. Will someone please translate it? Anyway.
Desperate are we?
A little bit. So I decided to track down the series, which served as a transition between Rurouni Kenshin and Buso Ranking, and you may or may not have heard of it for the simple reason that it was cancelled, but it was cancelled after 3 volumes. That's kind of sad.
Wow, yeah, that is kind of sad.
To put this into context, Buso Ranking was also ended early, and that had 10 volumes.
Wow, I'm looking the series up now, and its original run is just tragic. June 4th, 2001 to November 2nd, 2001.
Yeah. I picked this up, using some book tokens I had, and I thought, you know, this probably isn't going to be a great series given that it's cancelled, but at the very least, to put this into context, Nobuhiro Watzuki is someone I really respect, not just as a manga artist, but as a writer. I tend to... I do, because he's one of those mangaka who always explains his thought process behind writing series, so whenever I write for comics or anything like that, I always try to basically base my style of writing on his, if that makes any sense.
Now I know who provided the inspiration for all the writing I've seen.
In some ways, yeah. That's of course excluding Tales of Symphonia and all the other stuff I've mentioned. Oh yeah, I figured that at the very least I can see the weaknesses of his style as well, so that I'm not completely a gushing fanboy. Just to see what the weakest level this author is, and surprisingly, even though it is a weaker level, it is still pretty entertaining, I must admit.
And pretty entertaining is better than the shonen manga you read every week.
Pretty much, yes. The series is called Gunblaze West, and the series is set in the Wild West, and it focuses on the main character, Buds, a young boy who wants to head out west to challenge other gunslingers in order to test himself how strong he is and how strong he can become. He then learns from a man named Marcus who comes into his village one day, of a secret place known as Gunblaze West. It's kind of unclear what it is, but it's supposed to be this sacred holy ground for gunslingers, where only the strongest men alive can set foot in it. And so Viewbards then makes it his lifelong dream to go to Gunblaze West and defeat all the other gunslingers there. Or to put it in another more simplistic way, One Piece set in the Wild West. Except made before One Piece.
Yeah, retroactive recognition. Anyway, yeah, and I presume that in 3 volumes, the main character made more progress to his goal than Luffy did in 600 chapters.
Well, a little bit. The series kind of you never actually saw him reach Gunblaze West. It's kind of implied he did eventually, but the series kind of cancelled. I'm trying to think of the best way to explain it. It's kind of like Naruto is based around the Chunin exam, but it ended after the first number of battles. When they reached that tower, basically.
Oh, that's kind of disappointing.
Yeah. I mean, he manages to tie it up so it forms a kind of ending, but it's still clearly obvious that he cancelled it early. But yeah, the series is kind of a western, which I'm trying to think about it, but I can't recall any manga or anime that are specifically westerns. I know that Trigun's inspired by that, more or less.
Well, it's kind of a space western because it's not even Earth they're on, so it can't be called a western because there's no western United States for it to be in.
That's true, yeah. But yeah, that setting makes it pretty unique, and it's also a change of pace on Nobuhiro Watsuki because until this point, most of the action had been sort of foreplay stuff, so now it's entirely gun-based, and it's still managed pretty good. I mean, the first couple of chapters, it was a bit hard to tell what was going on, but the action got a lot better as the series went on, so I've always been impressed with his fight choreography, even if one weakness that is kind of dominant in his writing style, especially in Rurouni Kenshin, is that he tried to give characters superpowers, but then tried to make them work in a real-world sense, and it doesn't always work. Like, in Rurouni Kenshin, there was this technique that relied on someone drawing their sword so fast that it created an air vacuum in front of them, disabling the opponent, which I'm not quite sure is legitimately possible, but whatever.
Yeah, that's just slightly dubious.
Yeah, and there is like 1 or 2 instances of that in Gunblaze West. Like, there's one skill that's introduced later on called Concentration 1, which is basically, it's supposed to be, it's kind of like the Sharingan, basically, where your concentration tightens to the moment where you can take control of a moment and read your opponent's movements of expert precision.
Yeah, I have this sneaking suspicion that can't really exist in real life. I might be wrong. Yeah,
I believe that's the same, but yeah, if you kind of just take his side to a grain of salt, the action is still really enjoyable, and the character interaction is also really enjoyable as well. Eventually, as he heads out to Gunblaze West, he's joined by 2 new characters, Will, who's kind of the generic clever one, you know, the one who's serious business, and then has the kind of improbable fighting style of using the lasso and nothing else.
Okay then, I can't imagine how a person could do that in the Old West without kind of having the contents of their head turned into wallpaper.
Yeah, well, his kind of style, it's pretty much, It's almost superhuman, the fact that basically he lassos some people and then he kind of like flexes the rope and sends them flying so that they can't get in a good shot, which is kind of... It's a bit outlandish, but also awesome. And then there's the knife thrower Clarice, who comes from a circus, and she is hands down the best character in the entire series, just because she's so enjoyable to watch. She's to put it another way, for those of you who are familiar with Busan Rankin and Rurouni Kenshin, she's kind of the prototype Tokiko in that she's basically like the main female lead and one of the strongest characters in the entire thing. Nobuhiro Watzuki admits that this is one of the, as he calls them, battle heroines he wanted to do ever since Rurouni Kenshin. And what's actually kind of sad as well is that she starts out as one of the strongest characters in the series, at least stronger than the main character, because she's the one who teaches View the concentration 1 technique, but unfortunately, because the series never actually advances and allow them to get stronger, she's essentially the strongest person of all three, so...
Yeah, looks like the secondary main has kind of usurped and hijacked the main character's spot.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, I think actually the sad thing is, that's one thing that I will say about this work right now. Character creation is definitely one of Nobuhiro Watsuki's strengths, and there are a lot of really fun characters here. I mean, there's one character who I consider awesome just in terms of his name alone. There's a guy named Sarge Thunderarm in this, who's a prominent villain in one of the chapters, which...
That's a rather intriguing name.
Yeah, and there are many characters like it. It's kind of... But unfortunately, a large chunk of the side characters are a lot more interesting than the main hero, and to be fair, I think one of the main problems is that it was cancelled early, but I think I can see the reason why, though, and Nobuhiro Watsuki admits this as well, but it basically says it's an idea that he wanted to say for, like, a manuscript, like, entry contest thing for the latest magazine, that he wanted to, like, put it back in. He thought that it was going to be in November, so he basically spent time planning all the individual elements, thinking he had more time, but then it was suddenly moved forward to May, so he basically was forced to hand in a series that got accepted even though he had only thought out about half of the ideas. So this may be a little bit personal, so I apologize about that, viewers, but it's kind of like those role plays we did where we had some good ideas, but we hadn't really thought out on a lot of them, so they kind of just meandered around.
Roadblocked by the magic system.
Oh, God. Yeah, that's an inside joke, but yeah, that's one of our greatest failures as writers, but yeah.
That has got to be our greatest low point in terms of writing Roadblocks, so we kind of sympathize.
Yeah, it's basically that's what the series is, and one of the worst things that happens is View Barnes, because it's kind of discouraging. He's not really a bad character, it's just that there's not really much to him, much less anything that can be made to develop or made into a compelling character. His entire goal is just basically to become strong, but he just seems to be becoming strong for its own sake, to test myself, to see how strong I am. It's one of the reasons why I could never get behind Goku in Dragon Ball Z as a character. He doesn't seem to have any real main goal or reason. I mean, his parents were both killed by gunslingers, but View doesn't remember any of that, so it doesn't play any part of his character. In fact, I kind of mentioned this to Sven in a private chat earlier, but View's entire character can basically be summed up by an internet reviewer's catchphrase, and that catchphrase is, "I am a man!"
Yeah, I remember that. The only difference now is he is not a man punch with a pretty hat.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, that is the entire basis of his character. I want to be strong. I am a man. I have to be strong. There's not much else to him, so it's kind of hard to get behind him when it seems to be purely for the sake of obtaining strength. There's no real rhyme or reason for why he's strong other than I want to be strong. It's just... I don't know, it's not really bad per se, it's just that there's nothing to it. That's why Clarice is a lot more interesting as a whole, because, okay, yeah, she's a pretty simplistic as a character, but she's more fun to watch and at least has some reason for her actions.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from, it's just not particularly intriguing.
Yeah,